My boss has always told me ever since I moved here, and I've been like, I pay $75 a month to keep all of my belongings in storage in Texas, and I'm never going to be able to go get them, apparently. They're just sitting over there. Yeah. She's like, go look on Facebook Marketplace and see if you can find anything. And I was like, ew. And this week, I just looked around for a couple of days, and I found so many cool things for super cheap, but I didn't go get any of. That's the problem, is I didn't go get shit. I told like 7 people, I'm on my way at 3:00. I'm gonna come, and then they were like, "Where are you?" And I was like, I forgot that I don't like going places. You know.
Oh my God, Ashley.
I don't want to drive. So that's the problem. It's too easy. And so you always hear that people are like, oh, I hate selling stuff because 7 people told me they were going to come over. And I'm that person now. But also, damn it, can you just deliver it to me? Because that's what I want. Will you deliver that beautiful, it was like this beautiful mid-century modern chair.
Oh my God, how cute.
Individual, but cushioned and everything. Like it has upholstery. It was
like an
green
accent
upholstery. Chair. Yes, for $30 because they were wealthy and they don't care.
Oh my God.
I'm stupid. I know, but it was like going to snow and I was like, oh, I just think I've been working from home and now I don't have to leave. I haven't driven my car in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I understand.
The thought of it was.
I got groceries through Instacart and unfortunately Amazon because I had to get some stuff from Whole Foods.
Oh, get off the cross over here.
I hate it. Dude,
okay, all right.
I could have bought something from Amazon and had it here like in a month, and I chose not to, and to have it here in like 3 months because I just don't want to deal with. I don't want to have Amazon.
Right. Okay. Well, continue on.
I just don't
continue.
Like it.
Okay,
but anyways, so what I was saying is I don't like to leave my house. I really don't like to leave the house ever. Yeah,
it's not. Yeah. And now I'm also just like, when am I okay to be around people? I get different advice from different people.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. Life was so anxiety inducing and confusing before Corona. Then after Corona, because you act like a freak in any public scenario. You have no idea how to act. Right. And now I have it. Or I did, or whatever. And so, now how am I supposed to be? So my favorite thing that I found was Target, pick it up, and they just put it in your trunk. Yeah,
I didn't know that they would do that.
It's pretty great.
I think coronavirus is really going to change the way that business is done. I mean, who's going to want to? When I did my shopping through Instacart, I was like, I put a note and I was like, just feel free to leave it on the front step. And the only reason I knew he was there or gone was he knocked when he was done. He was driving away.
Yeah. I know.
Perfect.
It's pretty amazing. Like the vet was like, pull up to the curb and we'll come get her. And then you can sit in the car and we'll bring her back out. I was like, what? This is the best vet experience I've ever had.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you're just sitting there all awkward. I hated that. That was always awful. So it's like, oh, I get to sit in my car and just save art on Instagram the whole time. Fucking sweet. So anyway, I hope it does in some ways like that because I would enjoy it. Other ways I'm like
I do miss going out to breakfast. I do miss going to the movies a lot. I really miss going to the movie theater. But, it is
that may never happen. Yeah. So anyway, hey everybody. It's Ashley.
And Bianca.
And you're listening to Creep It Real. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome back, and welcome to the family. Jess, a.k.a. Brodaciously, our first highest tier patron.
Thank you so much. I mean, the generosity is insane.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Oh my God. I love her. She is on like this on the Bumbles streams all the time. And she's always like, you guys should start a Discord. And then she like took it upon herself to start a Discord channel for them. And I'm like, you should just be the producer. Just produce.
What? Oh, wouldn't it be nice for us all to have some help?
I know, seriously. Yeah. We hope you had a spooky, happy, and safe Halloween. And we hope that you're ready for the even more frightening month of November.
Ooh.
Today, we are going to be the embodiment of Charlie Day, standing in front of his board of red string and tackling the bear of conspiracy theories himself, Alex Jones.
There may have been a time when Alex Jones had intentions other than, as Texas Monthly aptly put it, helping to create a world where facts don't matter. But that version of himself is long, long gone. The fantastic publication from my home state, by the way, awarded Jones their Bum Steer of the Year award in 2019, saying that the radio host dragged our democracy into the same sewer he crawled out of so many years ago.
Yikes.
And we could not agree more. I think that was my favorite thing I read in this entire situation. I just love the way that they say everything. So that, our friends, is why we are talking about this clearly unstable, lying salesman of utter garbage today. Because some of you may not be fully aware of all the lies and unfounded information that he spreads. Some of you may know that, but not understand the impact that he had on the previous election and still has with our current president, and hopefully not those that come after him.
No kidding. We frequently discuss conspiracy theories and everything surrounding them, reading multiple sources of information, but the best way I've ever heard conspiracy theory put is actually from John Oliver. Half of the American public believes at least one conspiratorial theory. I don't think even we're immune to this because obviously this is the show that we put out and these are the topics that we're interested in. And this is because things like the 9/11 attacks, Princess Diana's death, the JFK assassination, and even COVID-19 are too big of events for us to just take them in stride. As humans, we feel the need to connect the chaos of these events to a tangible reason. The term for this is proportionality bias. Conspiracy theories also tend to be more seductive during times of crisis. For instance, in the 14th century, conspiracy theorists were under the impression that Jewish people caused the bubonic plague. In 1890, the light bulb was responsible for a global influenza outbreak. And in 1918, rumors spread that Bayer was tainting aspirin tablets with the Spanish flu and sending them to the United States for distribution.
Interesting.
But now we live in the age of the internet where disinformation is spread very easily and very quickly.
All that said, the Southern Poverty Law Center describes Alex Jones as, quote, the most prolific conspiracy theorist in contemporary America.
New York Times describes him as America's leading conspiracy theorist. So he hosts the Alex Jones Show from Austin, Texas, along with his websites Infowars, News Wars, and Prison Planet, which also are derived from conspiracy theories and fake news. I hate the phrase fake news.
I was going to say, it's hard to say that with a straight face. His objectives, for the most part, are and never have been anything new. It's the same old pile of bullshit from a different bowl. To put it possibly too succinctly, his beliefs are that an elite group of fascistic politicians and corporations are building a global government, the New World Order, with one goal in mind: controlling the population. Which is kind of interesting because he spent his entire career warning of the fascist global takeover and then helped usher in the closest thing to a fascist leader that America has seen in my lifetime. But nevertheless, who cares?
He also has claimed that several governments and corporations have colluded to create this new world order through manufactured economic crises, sophisticated surveillance technology, and inside job terror attacks that fuel exploitable hysteria.
It sucks because he's made me almost want to disassociate from conspiracy
theory. Same.
And it's like there is an element of truth to the fears that he has, or that like there could be a legitimate reason to have those fears. But then when you create, which we'll get into, but you can't fabricate these things and then try to be a legitimate source.
You can't fabricate them to match your agenda or end result, like we talk about all the time.
With police, when they go in with an idea in mind and then create the situation to fit that theory. But anyway, through time, this enemy has had many names: the Bilderberg Group, the Council of Foreign Relations, the Illuminati, now the NWO, the New World Order. It's an idea that's ambiguous enough that it leaves space for plenty of conspiracy. the somewhat unique aspect here is actually Jones himself, as we see with many people who kind of are able to create a cult following. Jones legitimately seems to believe that the New World Order is carrying out eugenics through Planned Parenthood and the environmentalist movement, aiming to eliminate 80% of the population who the, quote, elite don't deem necessary and are just using up resources. An interesting view, considering that Planned Parenthood is literally barely scraping by on a constant basis, has been shut down and limited by petty government regulations. At least, you know, where I remember in Texas, it was like if your Planned Parenthood hallways weren't this amount of width, then they had to shut the whole thing down. It was just arbitrary stuff because they're older buildings, they have more narrow hallways, like things like that, where it created a situation where all but like I think 4 Planned Parenthoods in the state of Texas were shut down because of just nonsense like that.
Of course.
Anyway, and I can personally attest to the Planned Parenthood having saved my ass through affordable access to reproductive health care, access to birth control, to STD testing, and as someone who has gone through long periods of my life not having health care, I don't understand how anybody can come in and act as though that Planned Parenthood is simply just like an abortion factory selling fetal tissue to the highest bidder. It's crazy. And not acknowledge how much good it does for underserved communities and for poor communities where you need access to these things.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on, everybody. What is the fucking problem here? I mean, we'll get into in a little bit the conspiracy behind why they believe Planned Parenthood is the most evil entity that has ever existed when it's truly just
trying
unfounded.
To help. Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to being an unhinged man who can easily whip himself into an angry, frothing fervor, he can also be incredibly charismatic and even more sure of himself, which we all know confidence, however unfounded, is something that really sells people to anybody that is listening to them. You know, all you have to do is act like you're confident about something, and generally there's going to be people that are like, oh, I think she knows what she's talking about. It's a little trick I've learned in my days. But also, it does seem like, in general, the kind of people who get to the point where they are a quote-unquote follower of Alex Jones, they need their energies directed somewhere. They need somebody to tell them what to be mad at, think, and what to be upset at, what you know, where to direct that angry energy, and then they're very easy to just go follow that direction.
Yes.
So it's something that I don't understand because I'm like, don't you fucking ever tell me what to do, you know? That's how I feel. So it does not make sense to me, but I know that there are other people different than me. So clearly there's a certain type that needs that authoritarianism, I guess. They need it. Whereas I'm like, yeah, you know,
please get out of here with that bullshit.
I don't like you telling me shit, no matter who you are, you know. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay, so the thing about Jones and others just like him is that you are left seriously wondering to yourself if he actually believes the things that he says, or are they just used to whip everyone into a fervor, to sell protein powder and survival kits. He can't really believe the shit he says, right? But a quote he gave Texas Monthly writer Nathan Blakely makes you wonder. He said, "I always enjoy doing radio, but sometimes I dread it now. Oh my God, just piles of evil, piles of quotes and documents, all total proof of their corruption. And I don't even have the will to look at it again." But we'll get into that later. We'll see. I mean, he cries on air about stuff I'm not even sure he could even really get that emotional about in real life. Like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Like the whole gay frogs situation. All right.
Okay.
So Alex Jones was born on February 11th of 1974 in Dallas, Texas, and he was raised in the suburb of Rockwall, later in Austin. His father was a dentist and his mother was a homemaker. And in his podcasts, he says that he is of Irish, German, Welsh, mostly English, and partially Native American descent.
Of course. Of course he is. Although he's from my hometown area. I do not claim him. And then when he moved to my favorite spot in Texas, Austin, in 1991, where he remains to this day flopping sweaty and red as a lobster all over town, I'm sure. I never ran into him when I was
going to ask. I was just going to ask, did you run into him when you were doing favors?
I did never run into Alex Jones, though I would have loved to have run into Alex Jones.
He played on his high school's football team, and he graduated from Anderson High School in Austin in 1993. And as a teenager, he read None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen and described it as the easiest to read primer on the New World Order. I read Harry Potter, so I guess that's kind of a great primer on the occult and occult practices.
For sure.
So.
For sure. It's all you need. Another defining moment in his life was when he stumbled upon C-SPAN's coverage of the congressional hearings on the Branch Davidian catastrophe that happened in Waco, which we have yet to cover on Creep It Real, but we will. This was hours and hours and hours of coverage that came before the time of the 24-hour news cycle, and Jones loved the fuck out of it. He was watching the coverage like I was watching Young and the Restless at the time. Waco became a symbol to the far right, that of the federal government running amok. And exactly 2 years later, the Oklahoma City bombings happened as an extension of this, as a matter of fact. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while. But Mount Carmel, where the 75 deaths of the Waco tragedy occurred, became a new generation of conspiracy theorists' grassy knoll. As Jones put it, I learned that there was an agenda, there was manipulation, there was deception. I didn't know what the full agenda was, but I wanted to find out. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what any of it was, but I was going to make sure to make it up post haste.
I can't stand it. There's some corruption. Well, what's your evidence? Well, there is none, but there is some.
I'll find it, though.
I can't stand it.
So, I mean, no, I will say this. That Waco was a shit show, 100%. And the government did fuck up big time.
Completely. I'm right there with you, but Jesus.
But still. So this set him on the fast track to discrediting the media and seeking alternative sources for his news, which led him to local access television. It was the perfect time because Austin's cable access station, Austin Community Television, was gaining national attention as the training ground for future talent. And it was a perfect storm. Jones became a hardcore fan of ACTV's program, Alternative Views, which oddly enough featured government whistleblowers and other guests of the left-leaning side of the political spectrum.
In 1995, the Oklahoma City bombing took place, and Jones accused the federal government of having caused it, saying, I understood there's a kleptocracy working with psychopathing governments, clutches of evil that know the tricks of control.
He is such a flamboyant talker.
So.
So he obviously had begun to realize his true calling in life. And by 1996, he was dropping out of Austin Community College.
And he began his broadcasting career, first running a live call-in public cable TV show, switching to radio in 1996. He hosted a show named The Final Edition, hosting Ron Paul several times as he was running for Congress.
How exciting. Oh, yay.
Thrilling.
But unfortunately, the dude had a passion for it, which is something I can't discredit him for. I have to respect it a little bit, just a small bit, because, like,
the smallest, really.
When you have passion, it shows, and it clearly paid off for old Jones there for forever so far.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He and his cameramen started showing up at public hearings where he generally accosted politicians, yelling things at them about how they were selling the country out with various issues, some outlandish, others possibly legit, but who really cares if you're just screaming at them like a lunatic? He would learn with time to stop screaming at them just out of the gate. You have to build up to the screaming. You can't just go straight at somebody screaming. I've tried it. It doesn't work. In 1997, he got a weekend radio gig on an FM station and began broadcasting from home to small satellite networks across the country. And as talk radio started blowing up all over the country, he went on Anyone and Everyone's show, talking about and honing his message while getting his name out there to everyone that he could, which... Again, he knew what he was doing, and he was willing to put in some footwork here to just make sure that everybody was talking about him at any moment. Soon, he was dominating ACTV and was making quite the name for himself around Austin. Enough people were showing up to his tapings that he had to rent his own studio for privacy. He initially began and continued by finding a way to mobilize people based off of their fear and their ignorance, in case you haven't noticed. A lot of that going around. He began to be known as Dude Radio, and that does not sound appealing to me. Whenever I heard that, I was like, ugh, that sounds terrible. And I think I know more than a few people in Texas that were adherents of this Dude Radio. Anyway, he learned that the more outrageous the lie, the more traffic that he and his websites and radio shows would get. Is he crazy, or is he exploiting people who are desperate and crazy themselves?
Exploiting. 100%.
Yep. He exploits racism, sexism, misogyny for his own gain, and was really just promoting a politic of conspiracy and lies, which is something that Frontline, one of my favorite documentaries, there was an episode called United States of Conspiracy, and it talks about a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today about Alex Jones and how he had an effect on the election in 2016. So Richard Linklater, Houston-based writer, director, producer of such films as Dazed and Confused and Bernie, took an early liking to Jones and would later put him in 2 of his films, which majorly kind of changed my views about him. I mean, Dazed and Confused is like one of those movies where it's nostalgic type of thing, where
it's a cult classic.
It's not that good. Yeah, it's not really that good, but it's nostalgic for me to watch it because I watched it as a kid and, I loved it then for sure.
Yeah.
And, it was filmed in Austin and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't realize that he was such a Alex Jones fan in the beginning. Yeah. And I guess lots of people were because he kind of just sounded a little bit crazy, but he's just a fun guy. What's the harm in that?
Yeah.
So Linklater would later attribute Jones's success to his passion, which, like I said, definitely brings a lot to the table, and the ability to bring a ton of information together for people. I guess no matter how untrue the end result may be, I suppose it's kind of. It kind of takes away from the work you do bringing that information together when it's just a bunch of nonsense.
Right. So in 1998, he released America Destroyed by Design, his first film. The first 2 minutes... Oh, shoot. I forgot you weren't going to be here, so I was going to play this while you were here, but you won't be able to hear it when I play it. Well, it's that one that goes... Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da.
Yes, yeah.
First 2 minutes. Anyways, okay. You can cut that whole
for 10
thing.
whole minutes?
It's for 2 minutes.
Oh, two. Okay. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay.
It's 2 minutes, and it's just scene after scene of terrible things happening, floods happening, children crying, police shooting up buildings, just terrible things, and it's just that, with that as a background.
Okay,
it's
good.
Homeboy has a flair for the dramatic, right?
Yeah,
and
well, yes.
The documentary goes on to describe how climate change is a hoax and the Rockefellers are an elite family hell-bent on being part of the New World Order, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
In 1998, he organized a successful campaign to build a new Branch Davidian church as a memorial to those who died during the 1993 Waco siege. He often discussed the project on his public access television program, claiming that David Koresh and his followers were peaceful people who were murdered by the Attorney General, Janet Reno, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms during the siege.
Never mind that Koresh was a child molester, essentially. Never mind that.
Which they were, but the point is that he's calling David Koresh a beautiful person.
Right.
Right.
Well, okay.
Let's not
too bad for David Koresh. You know,
No,
maybe the other people, like the children, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not even the adults. I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
if you're in a cult, I mean, god damn it. This is what we come to every time. It's like, well,
I know, every single time. We haven't done the Branch Davidians yet, like Ashley talked about earlier, but it is on the list and will probably be a huge bear of an episode also. In the same year, 1998, he was removed from a George W. Bush rally in Texas for interrupting his speech, demanding that the Federal Reserve and Council of Foreign Relations be abolished.
Good way to go about it. That's the way to get it done.
Shout it during a rally. It's fine.
It's like, okay, it's fine. I'm not going to... can't call him stupid every 5 seconds.
David Weigel, a reporter on the incident, said Jones seemed to launch into public events as if flung from another universe.
Yeah, that would make sense. Just bouncing around like a little lunatic.
In 1999, he tied with Shannon Burke for that year's poll of Best Austin Talk Radio Host, as voted by readers of the Austin Chronicle. And later that same year, he was fired from KJFK-FM for refusing to broaden his topics, the station's operations manager saying that Jones' views made it difficult for the station to sell advertising. Of this event, Alex Jones said, "It was purely political and it came down from on high. I was told 11 weeks ago to lay off Bill Clinton, to lay off all these politicians, to not talk about rebuilding the church, to stop bashing the Marines, A to Z." Yeah, but do that. Yeah, but also do that, though.
Oh, A to Z.
So, yeah. So, like so many of us other crazies, he decided to broadcast his show from home. In 2000, he was one of 7 Republican candidates for state representative in Texas House District 48, an open swing district based in Austin, Texas. Jones said that he was running to be a watchdog on the inside, but withdrew from the race after a couple of weeks, probably because his polling numbers were abysmal.
He would never have withdrawn if he was doing well.
Of course he wouldn't have. In July of 2000, a group of Austin Community Access Center, ACAC programmers claimed that Jones used legal proceedings and ACAC policy to intimidate them or try to get their shows thrown off the air.
I'm not surprised. In July of 2000, he did what may be one of the only good things that he's done in his career. As we talked about on Creeper Eel's first episode, one of Creeper Eel's first episodes on Bohemian Grove, he is one of the only outsiders who have ever breached the gates of that gross-ass place on his documentary Dark Secrets, filming the opening cremation of care ceremony.
So the cremation of care ceremony is the annual ritual production written, produced, and performed by and for members of the Bohemian Club and is staged at the Bohemian Grove. He called it a ritualistic shedding of conscience and empathy and abuse of power. And you're right. That is like the one good thing that he's done. But the unfortunate thing is he has now spouted so much additional disinformation that it really hurts. It hurts anything that any good that he did, any true good that he did, because you have spouted so much bullshit. What do we take as credible? What do we take as credible from you?
Right.
You? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, and let me go on here because this is, actually he didn't really do that much in the first place. So that said, as I talked about on that Bohemian Grove episode, Philip Weiss with Spy Magazine had already done the same thing 11 years earlier, where he exposed the whole bizarre opening ceremony. And again, like I touched on, important figures, both politically, George Bush Sr., Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Bill Clinton, members of the press like Rupert Murdoch, two heads of corporations all gather at this place to let their dicks swing. But far more important, they do. But far more important is that they are meeting to do business and make serious deals behind closed doors. And that's the problem. That's the real problem here. Instead of focusing on that legitimate factual problem, Jones went for the flashy, less legit details of the situation, insinuating that it's possible that they were actually sacrificing a human and not simply an effigy. He didn't really bring anything new to the table at all. And the whole situation is kind of a perfect analogy to his entire career. Because instead instead of focusing on legit issues right in front of his face, a la Jeffrey Epstein, he creates a conspiracy theory that is totally false, Pizzagate, to work himself up into a fervor about something, rendering himself technically useless because you're not even focusing on the real
issues at hand. Yeah, for sure. In 2001, his radio show was syndicated on about 100 stations.
But that wouldn't last long. And then something happened that changed everything. On his July 25th, 2001 episode of his ACTV show, Jones made a prediction that the government would stage a major terror attack inside the U.S. and blame it on someone like Osama bin Laden as a pretext for ushering in a police state.
I guess a broken clock is wrong, right? Twice, right? Right twice a day? Something like that? Something about clocks.
I think a broken clock is right. I think once a day. Isn't it? Once a day?
I think it's twice.
Okay. I can't get that. We can't even get that saying right. So zero times a day. Ashley can get is it an idiom correctly? So regardless, I think we all know what happened. 6 weeks later, 9/11 took place. And I gotta give it to him. He either got a hold of those FBI documents that warned about the possibility of this attack, which were very real, is clairvoyant, or he just got really fucking lucky with that guess. Or maybe he got the inside scoop at Bohemian Grove while he was there, maybe. Who knows? Probably not. Because, like we know, 9/11 actually fucking happened.
Right.
It did actually fucking happen. Were there sketchy details about it? 100%.
Yeah.
Which, again, 9/11 is a whole other topic that I want to talk about one day, but, you know, today's not that day. Regardless, it was sketchy as fuck, but...
Anyway, immediately following the attacks, he made this statement on his show that the attacks were an inside job. He began to promote the conspiracy theory that the Bush administration was behind the attack, and he became a leading figure of the 9/11 truther cause. I actually didn't know that. Until we did research on this, I didn't know where the truther...
Oh, really?
Conspiracy. I didn't know honestly, I didn't know Alex Jones was the father of so many crazy ass conspiracies. I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, I got really into the Zeitgeist documentary like a long time ago and was like, this is really sketchy. What the fuck? But
is it Alex Jones?
You know,
Zeitgeist?
No. Oh. No. But I had no idea at the time that Alex Jones was out there.
Sure. Yeah.
Doing this shit too. Overnight, he was dropped by 3/4 of the stations that carried his radio show, but he was tenacious and refused to back down, and soon his show attracted others who were left questioning the official story. And like I said, for good reason. What may have initially appeared to be a huge mistake and like I said, for good reason. Because like I said, it was sketchy, but it doesn't mean it was fake. I do think that the government knew more than they told us.
They allowed it to happen.
So what may have initially appeared to be a huge mistake on Jones's part would end up defining his entire career. It's not because the attacks didn't happen, but because they were the impetus for the loss of a lot of our freedoms as American citizens, and we were not given much information. It is also recorded history that the minute the planes hit, Donald Rumsfeld was quoted as saying, "We've got to tie this to Saddam somehow." And then you know the rest of the story. Or maybe you don't, but that's for another episode. Soon, the clip from his July show went viral, and Jones became known as the man who predicted 9/11. By his standards, though, he profited from it and could have been the mastermind, the mastermind behind the whole thing himself. If you were going to be
sure,
a conspiracy theorist, that's enough. That's enough tying him to it that he might have been the one that did it. It was old AJ himself.
Old AJ. In 2006, he was on his way to cover a meeting of the Bilderberg Group in Ottawa and was stopped and detained at the Ottawa airport by Canadian authorities. They confiscated his passport, camera, equipment, and most of his belongings. He was later allowed to enter Canada legally, Jones saying about his immigration hold, "I want to say on the record, it takes two to tango. I could have handled it better." I'm sure he could have.
Oh, he handled it
I'm
poorly?
sure.
He handled something poorly?
I'm sure.
What? Out of character.
Out of character.
So Jones was responsible for and spoke at the first 9/11 Truther Conference in LA in 2007, in which Charlie Sheen, a man of pristine repute, called Jones a great American patriot and introduced him to a packed auditorium, and he delivered a speech that was described as being electric.
The person that I want to describe me as a great American patriot is definitely Charlie Sheen. 100%.
Everyone knows that Charlie's the one who determines whether you're a good person. Yes. Oh, help. At the time, Jones was the biggest star of the Genesis Communications Network, which was a small syndicator for indie shows based in none other than Minnesota that included a lot of conspiracy talk radio. Is owned by Ted Anderson, who created it as a way to promote his company, Midas Resources, which sells gold and silver coins to collectors and investors. Funny enough, talk radio listeners were an easy sell for these gold and silver products. Either way, the logical next step for him was signing with a network, which was something he was hesitant to do, worrying that he would lose editorial control of his show or have to move to a major market to get access to the big name guests. Instead, he hawked merchandise, survival gear, sold banners on his websites, and subscribers could watch live broadcasts of his radio show. In 2007, he had made enough that he bought an $800,000 home in a gated community in Austin and was doing fairly fucking well financially on his own.
Yeah, sort of. A little, like, kind of well. Also, in 2007, he was arrested while protesting at 6th Avenue and 48th Street in New York City when his group crashed a live television show featuring Geraldo Rivera. He was charged with operating a megaphone without a permit, and 2 other people were also cited for disorderly conduct. One of Jones' fellow protesters was reported as saying it was guerrilla information warfare.
Oh, it's so dramatic.
I love the whistleblowy. Like, I love the little buzzwords that they put in there, like guerrilla information warfare. Like, stop.
Yeah, it's not. You're not some fucking soldier out here. You know, like as much as you wish you were, but you don't want to do the work for it. You know,
right? Exactly.
You don't want to do the work. You don't want to be underappreciated and forgotten by society. But you want to pretend like I'm out here with my,
of course,
combat boots. I'm stomping on people over here. So by 36, Jones had already managed to create a successful brand that crossed into multiple platforms. From his radio show, which had around 2 million listeners and was syndicated in over 60 stations, to his websites, the Infowars and Prison Planet TV, which you talked about earlier, which had around 4 million viewers. He had become a cult favorite for college students and the burgeoning Tea Party, which really gained steam during the early years of the Obama administration, just as Jones was blowing up. It was kind of another perfect little storm. Oh, the Tea Party. Mm-hmm.
So fucking problematic.
He knew that getting all worked up translated well on YouTube because you're going to get everyone's attention, and some of those people are going to stick around to see just what's making you scream and howl and cry, and a few of those are going to think that just maybe there's a little bit of truth to what you're saying, and voila, you've got yourself a cult member. Mm-hmm. He put out documentaries, conspiracy theorist propaganda, nearly 2 a year, each with millions of views online. When he held a contest to see who could distribute the most copies of the poster of Obama as the Joker, which you may or may not recall from back in the day, the images were everywhere, from Tea Party rallies to T-shirts, and that wasn't just limited to the United States. It was really the first time that I can remember the Tea Party really beginning to shift the way that I saw politics work in the United States, where the fabricated reality of certain people that started to be repeated by enough people with enough exposure that they were able to claim it as fact, even when the literal facts were presented to them right in their faces. It was like, what the fuck is going on here? I couldn't believe it.
I still can't believe it.
Well, yeah.
I still can't believe it. Here is facts. Here is evidence. It's fake. Get fucked.
Nobody.
What's the reality? Oh, this YouTube clip. Go away. Go the fuck away.
We can remember the whole Obama birth certificate cries from Jones that were then repeated by Trump during his campaign, where the legitimacy of Obama's birth certificate was constantly put into question, which, first of all, is absurd that anyone could honestly even question the birth certificate of someone that has gotten to the level of running for goddamn president of the United States. I could not roll my eyes any harder. I don't think I could. But no matter what, these folks could not and would not believe it. It was 100% founded in racism.
And again, the proof was given to the public, and yet again, it was just, but that's fake.
It probably should never have even been given to the public, because it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Do I need to really be?
Where is it? Where is the proof that you will accept?
Well, you just, it doesn't fit what your preferred reality to be, so it's not true, I guess. So, I mean, obviously that was 100% found in racism. If you think it wasn't, you're kidding yourself, because it was the first black man resoundingly elected as president of the United States, and you're telling me it's unrelated to a skin color that you are suddenly finding this person elected president as not being legitimate? Like, okay.
Right.
I don't think so. I don't think so. It was at the same time that people in the Tea Party and others like Sarah Palin, that bastion of intelligence and leadership, were repeating ridiculous conspiracies like government death panels and all sorts of stuff that was just clearly untrue. It had no basis in reality. And somehow it was being repeated enough times that even the media was like, wait, maybe this is true. There are going to be government death panels because of fucking healthcare. You know, like, it is just insane. It's all insane. Jones and his followers didn't single-handedly create this air of distrust of the government, of questioning its credibility. We had been lied to for decades, but especially in the Bush White House, where Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld were desperate to tie 9/11 to Saddam Hussein, and the president assured all of us that we knew that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, only to later discover it was all a lie, and thousands upon thousands of lives had been lost in the meantime. At this point, 100%. We have reached a whole new level where I was like, gosh, I miss George Bush. Like, where, you know, like, what? If you would have told my 19, 20-year-old self that I would ever say, gosh, I miss George Bush, I would have been like, you fucking lying bitch. Yep. How honestly, dare
same.
you? Yeah.
Same.
And
same.
Yeah. But how can we have any kind of productive conversation if we can't even agree on basic facts?
We can't. That's
the problem.
We cannot. Yeah. That's the issue.
Yeah.
All of my stress from this last week is like rooted in this whole situation. This is the embryo of all of my stress over the past week.
Yeah. It's been like I've said here, it's been going on for so fucking long.
Right.
It's only made it where it's not so completely insane that people are living in an alternate reality. But anyway, so it was around this time that Jones was giving one of the glorious Texas Monthly interviews that I will reference often, from 2010, when he was racing around Austin in his truck, and he made this rant. He said, "The worst of the worst, the most corrupt, the most sadistic, the most bloodthirsty, the biggest control freak, obsessive compulsive nutcases run things. And they want to run everything. They get off on it. And the problem is, good people don't get off on that. So we're at war against a guild of control freaks and perverts and sickos who relish conning people and relish lying, relish spreading misinformation, and relish propaganda. They have openly written 1,000 plus white papers and hundreds of books about their plan. And I'm over here going, look at this, ladies and gentlemen. This whole rant seems ludicrous now, 10 years later, considering the bizarre role that he took with the current president. At this point, the harm he's caused far outweighs any long con that he could have ever possibly been in the middle of, where like people might have been like, maybe he's just doing this to get in there and make everyone think he thinks he belongs. But there's no way. I feel like
it's projection.
Well, obviously now, looking at it now, it's like, you're lying, and you're relishing getting people worked up about stuff that's
exactly.
lies. But that's, yeah, because because people will sometimes say, maybe he's pulling a long con. But like I said, it's the damage he's done far outweighs any good that he could ever be secretly doing. And it's also giving him way too much credit because he's just been on his bullshit long enough that he's conned enough people into believing it to sell himself out enough to get a friend in the White House. He has sold himself out to the point that his best pal, quote unquote, little pal, was in the White House repeating the shit he was saying to him.
He was spewing.
Help me, please. So as you could assume, when you're on the air for about 4 hours a day, you got to keep stirring shit. People are only going to listen to you go on about skinwalkers and John Benet Ramsey for so long before they're out. So Jones,
wait a second, are you calling yourself out?
Maybe. So Jones has to scream himself to the point of wetting his pants about every single thing he can cast doubt about. Earthquakes, swine flu, global warming. At this point, he cannot stop. Everything has to get him crying on his show. He's got to make everybody go, wait a second, can you believe this? Because no one cares about Waco for 20 years. No one's going to listen to him talk about Waco for that long. And so all along, whenever somebody has questioned the legitimacy of the things that he claims, his response has always been something along the lines of, you just haven't read the documents that I've read. You haven't seen the stuff that I've seen. I'm Alex Jones. I have access to all sorts of stuff that you could never even imagine that you could lay eyes on. Of course. But at one point, he was mainstream and popular enough in Austin, at least, still on the fringe, hadn't crossed over into this zone where he was just now kind of a pariah, where he was like recording public service announcements for the Alamo Drafthouse Theater, where he parodied. I know. Where he parodied
Alamo.
I know. He parodied, how can I not say that word? Parodied his own persona, where he did a little service announcement at the beginning of the movie that said, we're going to find out who these talkers are. We're going to find out where their funding comes from. And we're going to shut them down. Don't talk on your phone.
That's actually very clever.
Well, I doubt he came up with that in the first
I'm sure.
place. But regardless, that's something that I don't think would happen nowadays.
No.
And back then, he was offended by the notion that there might be a different Alex Jones hidden beneath the one that his listeners hear every day. To the writer of the Texas Monthly article, one of them, he said, I'm real, okay? I'm real. I don't want my own TV show. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I don't want stardom. That's what you don't understand about me. God. He did.
Hold on. Wasn't he on every public radio show that would take him? Every single one?
He wanted it.
Girl, bye.
That you just don't understand me, Jesus. So back in 2010, he was super pissed that Glenn Beck was lifting content from his show and putting it on Fox. He said he was twisting it and turning it into a Roger Ailes Fox News evil doppelganger of my show. The funny thing is that he somehow doesn't see himself as being the exact same thing, just slightly fringier. That's it. It's like the exact same thing.
Yep.
He peddles the exact same shit. So I guess somewhere Alex Jones got lost along his little way. He didn't quite realize what he'd become. He claimed that the Republicans rode in on his coattails, those of this populist uprising, and they co-opted it completely. Well, that's weird. Is it because they relate to everything you're saying 100% because you are a Republican? But to me, it just sounds like the protest of someone who thinks just like his daddy, but doesn't want to be called a Republican. So he made up a new name for it called libertarianism, just so you feel special. But you're really a Republican. Sorry, everybody. And, another thing that I really stuck out to me about the interview with where this guy from Texas, which, I mean, it's truly, Texas Monthly is amazing, but he rode around with him and hung out with him here all the time. And Alex, he said, was so concerned with this man thinking he's a bad person. Like, he would call him up after they would be spending hours together, and he would say, do you think what I'm doing is bad? Do you think I'm a bad person? It's like, why do you care? That's
Oh
so
my gosh.
crazy. It's like he does have this little bit of conscience somewhere deep inside of him, but it doesn't outweigh the perks of what he's getting out of it. So eventually, he developed a real relationship with sleazy Trump lackey Roger Stone, who said, "You can't buy Trump. You can't bully Trump." That's what he would like come on and say to Jones on his show, and Jones just was like, "You're right. He's a real deal guy. You can't buy Trump. Give me a damn break." Jones provided Stone a platform to get in front of millions of people in exchange for being made to feel legitimate by receiving Stone's approval.
In December of 2015. He initially, quote, formed a bond with Donald Trump after the then presidential candidate of the United States appeared on the Alex Jones show. Trump stating, your reputation is amazing. I will not let you down.
Yeah, okay. So this was just before the primaries, and Jones really, really kissed his ass a tremendous amount. He was like starry-eyed. I've never had such butterflies in my stomach before an interview, which Trump, of course, loved.
Of course he did. He's a fucking narcissist.
Yeah, it got Trump Jones' seal of approval for his millions of listeners, and it gave Jones an inside road to the center of American politics, which is how I believe that Trump beat Hillary in 2016, by getting all these voters that otherwise would have been like, I don't know about that guy running as a Republican because I'm a libertarian. But it really sold all his listeners on Trump. That's all. I mean, 100%.
For sure. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Hillary Clinton criticized Trump for his ties to Jones.
Which is totally fair, but I'd also like to criticize Hillary for her ties to Hillary.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, 100%. I think she was the lesser of the two, but there were some things about her that I was like, I don't know.
Not great. I know it's not... It's not a very popular opinion among...
No, definitely not. Sorry,
liberal,
everybody.
Yeah, progressive
Sorry,
females,
everybody, for offending everybody. Conservatives, liberals. We're going to just offend literally every single person in this show. Sorry.
Too bad. The New York Times' Elizabeth Williamson said conspiratorial thinking is a feature of this president. So, of course, the two were a match made in heaven. A literal match made in heaven. In fact, Trump called to thank Jones personally after he won the election, which I find to be troubling. But whatever. It's not the most troubling thing about the 2016 election. So Jones really got a lot in the ego department from Trump repeating his conspiracies word for word, and he talked about it all the time on his show about how he would say something, and 2 days later he hears Trump at a campaign rally spurting out the same shit. It was a big old power trip, as you might imagine it would be. If you're saying some crazy shit that no one else is repeating, and then the president of the United States of America is going out and saying it. Trump was literally out there repeating Jones's talking points like he was Trump's ghostwriter or something. Like, honestly, I guess he kind of was to some small degree.
On July 21st, following the 2016 Republican National Convention, Jones and Roger Stone began to plot the removal of Ted Cruz from his Senate seat after he failed to endorse Donald Trump as the Republican presidential candidate. This was obviously before Ted Cruz turned around and worshipped the ground Trump walks on, and obviously after Trump called his wife ugly and stupid and all of the bullshit that he says about Ted Cruz, that fucking spineless little snail.
I was going to say, but really, fuck Ted Cruz, that grandpa monster motherfucker. You're a piece of trash. But it is funny that they're like, he didn't support me, so let's devise a plan to kill him. Like, okay, take it down.
On July 6th of 2017, alongside Paul Joseph Watson, Jones began hosting a contest to create the best CNN meme, for which the winner would receive $20,000.
Damn!
They were responding, we just needed to create a meme in 2017, Ashley. God damn it.
Damn.
They were responding to CNN reporting on a Reddit user who had created a pro-Trump anti-CNN meme.
Oh, okay. Okay. That same year, in his highly publicized years-long custody battle, his ex-wife Kelly Jones used his rantings to portray him as an unfit parent, rightly
So
so.
Jones has 3 children with her. The couple divorced in March of 2015, and in 2017, Kelly sought sole or joint custody of their children due to her ex-husband's behavior. She claimed he's not a stable person. Shocking. And I'm concerned that he is engaged in felonious behavior, threatening a member of Congress, which was Adam Schiff.
Good.
His attorney responded by claiming that, quote, he's playing a character and describing him as a, quote, performance artist. Tell that to his listeners, please.
Yeah, and himself, apparently. So his lawyers countering that he's playing a character in front of the mic is not really as unhinged as he seems to be, is an admission that would seemingly be devastating for a man who spent so many years cultivating his persona and swearing up and down that it was 100% legit, not an act in any way, no siree. It seems like that would have been a devastating blow to his career. But considering he has a reputation to uphold with his army of fans, he then later that day felt compelled to get on the air and reassure them that he is 100% authentically as crazy as he appears. So
contrary to his lawyer, who I'm sure is also super honest, on his show, Jones denied playing a character, and he called his show, quote, the most bona fide, hardcore, real McCoy thing there is, and everybody knows it. Real McCoy. I don't even understand that statement if we're being 100% honest with one another.
All I can think of is a song. Continue.
Okay. In court, he clarified that he generally agreed with his attorney's statement, but that he disagreed with the media's interpretation of the term performance artist. Kelly was, of course, awarded the right to decide where their children live while he maintains visitation rights.
Run away and save your life. Have you ever heard that before?
No.
What? Okay.
No.
That's the real McCoy.
Okay.
That's what he was talking about, by the way. I'm sure of it.
Oh, okay. I'm sure it was, yeah. On January 23rd of 2018, he announced he would be working with Neil Strauss on his upcoming book titled The Secret History of the Modern World and War for the Future.
Oh, good.
In February of the same year, he was accused by 2 former employees of anti-Semitism, shocking, anti-black racism, shocking, and sexual harassment, all shocking, and denied the allegations.
No.
In April, he publicly criticized President Trump during a live stream after Trump announced the military strike against Syria. During the stream, he also stated that Trump had not called him during the prior 6 months, sounding like a butthurt girlfriend who got ghosted.
Oh my gosh, what a baby. He hasn't seen me in months.
He doesn't call, he doesn't write, he doesn't text.
I can't wait till he sees me out with some new boy.
Our snap streak is dead.
Oh, goodness. But things aren't so innocent anymore, and his crazy behavior did begin to affect his livelihood as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube kicked him off their platforms in the summer of 2018. As Bianca will talk about, it's not really great for someone who makes money on social media.
This is because Alex Jones does not play well with others. On July 24th of 2018, YouTube removed 4 Infowars videos citing child endangerment and hate speech. They issued a strike against the channel and suspended the ability to live stream. On July 27th, Facebook, notoriously terrible at disseminating right-wing conspiracies, suspended Jones' profile for 30 days and also removed the same videos, saying that they violated standards against hate speech and bullying. On August 3rd of 2018, Stitcher Radio removed all of his podcasts, citing harassment. 2018 is not a great year for Jones. On August 6th, Facebook, Apple, YouTube, and Spotify removed all content by Jones and Infowars for policy violations. YouTube removed channels associated with Infowars, including the Alex Jones channel. On Facebook, 4 pages that were associated with Infowars and Alex Jones were removed due to repeated policy violations. And Apple removed all podcasts associated with Jones from iTunes. August 13th, Vimeo removed all of Jones' videos because of prohibitions on discriminatory and hateful content. Facebook cited instances of dehumanizing immigrants, Muslims, and transgender people, as well as glorification of violence as examples of hate speech. His accounts were also removed from Pinterest, MailChimp, and LinkedIn. As of early August 2018, Jones still had active accounts on Instagram, Google+, rest in peace, and Twitter. He tweeted a Periscope video calling on others to get their battle rifles ready against Antifa, because it's an organization, apparently. Mm-hmm. And the mainstream media, also, all of the mainstream media,
just
everywhere. In the video, he also says, now is the time to act on the enemy before they do a false flag. Twitter cited this as reason to suspend his account for a week in August of that year. In September, Jones was permanently banned from Twitter. So August to September, permanent ban. Mm-hmm. And Periscope after berating CNN reporter Oliver Darcy. On September 7th, the Infowars app was removed from the Apple App Store for objectionable content. He was banned from using PayPal for his business transactions, citing hate or discriminatory intolerance against certain communities and religions. Infowars remained available on Roku devices in January of 2019, a year after its removal from multiple streaming services. Roku indicated that they do not curate or censor based on viewpoint, and that it had policies against content that is unlawful, incited illegal activities, or violates third-party rights, but that Infowars was not in violation of these policies. Of course, only after following a social media backlash, they removed Infowars and stated, after the Infowars channel became available, we heard from concerned parties and have determined that the channel should be removed from our platform. So, in March of 2019, YouTube terminated the Resistance News channel due to re-uploading live streams from Infowars. On May 1st of 2019, Jones was barred from using both Facebook and Instagram. In March of this year, the Infowars app was removed from the Google Play Store due to Jones disseminating misinformation related to the COVID-19 pandemic. A Google spokesperson stated that combating misinformation on the Play Store is a top priority for the team, and apps that violate Play policy by distributing misleading or harmful information are removed from the store.
Don't wear masks. They're trying to get you out there with your mask.
Have you seen that TikTok trend where they're like, this is a mask and this is a sneeze?
No.
Oh my God. I have to send you all of the threads because there was one person that was like, this is a mask and this is a sneeze, and she takes a mask and she holds it right against the nozzle of a spray bottle.
Oh, okay.
And of course it's gonna fucking go through there. So people are just getting more and more ridiculous with it. One person said, this is a mask, and has a blue mask, and this is a sneeze, and it's a fucking tractor.
Yeah.
Or some sort of combine, and it runs through the combine, and the mask is actually still intact. It's pretty incredible. But it just gets more and more ridiculous as it goes along. Anyways.
Can I just say, as a COVID survivor thus far, that it really sucks. It's been over 2 weeks now, or it's been 2 weeks now since I started feeling symptoms, and I still am not feeling great. Obviously, yeah. I'm not in a bad way, but I still don't feel good, and I am somebody that hardly ever gets sick. So it's not a fucking walk in the park. And if you're thinking about people who are in who have lesser immunities than I do, or health issues, or immunocompromised, it could be, obviously, it's very serious for those people. And so what the fuck is wrong with you that you have to say, it's all a conspiracy? People are sick, period. It's just it's happening. Accept
well, and the other thing is it's not for us. The mask isn't, when I wear a mask, it's not for me. My immune system is impeccable. I get sick with a cold maybe once a year, possibly. But it's not for me. It's for you in case I am sick. And I think probably in the future, I will continue to wear masks when I am sick. If I do get a cold, I probably will wear masks regardless.
Well, that's just because you're a sellout.
You think I'm a sellout for it?
I'm kidding. God. No. All right. So let's dive into some of the notable conspiracy theories that Jones has and continues to push. In 2012, there was the claim that a hurricane headed towards Hawaii had been split in two by an energy beam from Antarctica, which he suggested may have been ordered by then Secretary of State John Kerry. It's possible,
It's so laughable. It's so laughable. Oh my God. So he's a believer in weather weapons, and Salon, the magazine Salon, covered his claim that the president has access to weather weapons capable of not only creating tornadoes, but also moving them around on demand. He was saying this about Barack Obama, not Trump.
Mm-hmm.
His belief in weather warfare has been reported by mainstream media, and he has claimed that Hurricane Irma may have been geoengineered.
Oh.
He has also promoted the idea of white genocide. The white supremacist belief that there is a deliberate plot, most often blamed on the Jewish community, to promote reproduction by people of different races, mass non-white immigration, racial integration, low fertility rates, abortion, governmental land confiscation from white people, organized violence, and eliminationism in white-founded countries in order to cause the extinction of whites through forced assimilation and violent genocide.
How can you be such a fucking lunatic that you seriously are out here thinking that the white race is at risk?
Yeah, like your laugh about it.
Oh my God.
Media Matters covered his claim that NFL players protesting during the national anthem were, quote, kneeling to white genocide and violence against whites, which
Turn
the
their message
SPLC,
around
yeah, of course he did, which the SPLC featured in their headlines review. On October 2nd of 2017, he claimed that Democrats and communists, why is it always Democrats and communists? It's always communists
and socialists.
Yeah. It's all interchangeable. Mm-hmm. He said that they were plotting imminent white genocide attacks. His reporting and public views on the topic have received support and coverage from white nationalist publications and groups such as the Alt-Right Corporation and the New Zealand National Front.
Why does New Zealand have to have... I can't. New Zealand.
You can't do it. You can't do it.
I can say, what? I'm innocent. That's from Flight of the Conchords. That's it. I can say, Grig. I said earlier, whenever I said, "Are you ready, Grig?" Grig.
Oh, that's what you were saying.
I was doing it as a Flight of the Conchords. This character named Murray, who's.
I was gonna say
Grig.
Yes, Michael. I'm ready, just because it was a random name.
So anyway, I can't do accents to save my life. Another huge part of Jones's core beliefs is the whole eugenics thing, which he kind of we're kind of just going off of the white supremacist bullshit, which he explains as thoroughly as he can in his documentary Endgame. His theory is based in part on Henry Kissinger's 1974 memorandum as then National Security Advisor, in which he argued that overpopulation in the third world is a threat to global stability, and went on to contemplate withholding aid to countries that failed to take proactive steps to address the problem in 1974. That said, the problem here lies in the fact that by reading the whole memo, you would find that Kissinger didn't actually think that this kind of coercion was a good idea, not out of some moral dilemma, but because it would take too much work. So it was like Jones just read what he wanted out of it and then took the rest, threw it away, and then ran with it. Additionally, worries of overpopulation weren't limited to just the secretive NSA, as in that same year, the UN released a report that contained many of the same concerns with a population control plan that was publicly debated due to widespread famine in Asia and Africa. So it's like... it wasn't like it was this big conspiracy even back then. It wasn't like this hidden agenda. It was actually talked about fairly openly. And like we briefly touched on, a huge target in Jones's eugenics conspiracy is Planned Parenthood, who he claims is part of the modern-day eugenics campaign. This is in large part because Margaret Sanger, the intellectual founder of the birth control movement in the United States, endorsed eugenics in the 1920s and 30s, 100 years ago, when it was incredibly common, and people like Teddy Roosevelt, John Maynard Keynes, Woodrow Wilson, and other prominent figures were also proponents of eugenics at the time. Not to say it's right, but it was just going on. But Sanger's objective was clear if you really look at her career. She worked for women's liberation, not to purify the human race. But, you know, that's probably difficult for a lot of libertarian men to wrap their heads around, apparently, because they can't. It always comes back to that old empathy topic, which seems to be a big missing link in society with a lot of things.
For sure. Exactly.
To make the leap from Sanger's writings of over 75 years ago to somehow turn Planned Parenthood into an ultra-secret eugenics factory is really something. to put it mildly, it's something that it's very difficult to make that jump. But he makes that jump all the time, and so does everybody else. Some fucking 30-year-old man sharing a video about the evils of Planned Parenthood on social media. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Are you over there saving yourself for marriage and not fucking people?
Exactly.
Go fuck yourself.
Some other ones of his conspiracies include vaccination. He is known for both his opposition to vaccines and his views on vaccine controversies. June 16th of 2017, Vox covered his claim that the introduction of the Sesame Street character Julia, an autistic Muppet, was designed to normalize autism, a disorder caused by vaccines.
Oh, is that true? Is it true? Yes. First of all, how terrible to make.
That's so awful. That's so awful.
For there to be representation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It is normal. It's fucking normal, and it's not caused by vaccines. There's literally zero proof of that. So
on November 20th of 2017, the New Yorker quoted Jones as claiming Infowars was defending people's right to not be forcibly infected with vaccines. Critics argue that he endangers children by convincing their parents that vaccines are dangerous. Jones has specifically disputed the safety and effectiveness of MMR vaccines.
I wish that they would, if you have taken the step to have a child, I wish that whenever you hear stuff that it really does affect the health and safety of your child, that you might look into it a little deeper than just saying, well, this crazy red-faced guy on TV told me it was going to be bad for my kid, so I'm going to check out of this situation. Why don't you look into it a little bit further? But I guess, if you're just doing the whole confirmation bias thing, you're only going to look up stuff that gives you the information that you want to believe.
Right. So, climate change is also, of course, on his list of conspiracy theories. He believes that global warming is a hoax made up by the World Bank to control the world economy through carbon tax.
Oh, that's right. Because I'm pretty sure the banks are some of the worst polluters of
course they are.
Okay, so anyway, in what was perhaps his true clowning glory of unfounded insanity, stupidity, whatever you want to call it, was the massacre of elementary school children and a few adults at Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut in 2012. As per his usual habit, he immediately began questioning the official accounts of the killings, saying they never actually occurred. It was an elaborate hoax, a false flag operation staged as a pretense for gun control.
He spread conspiracy theories about the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting and 2018's Stoneman Douglas High School shooting as being these false flag operations by gun control advocates. He stated no one died in Sandy Hook, and Stoneman Douglas survivor David Hogg was a crisis actor. These claims have been proven false because of course they have.
Of course. Some of his followers began harassing some of the parents of the murdered children, calling them crisis actors, forcing them to unlist phone numbers, delete social media, and even move in a few cases.
What a terrible fucking thing to go through as a parent.
Yes.
This is so insidious. This man is so fucking insidious. I am really sad that he got the platform that he did to really actively cause harm and turmoil to people.
100%.
In March of 2018, 6 families of Sandy Hook victims and an FBI agent who responded to the attack filed a defamation suit against Jones for spreading false claims, resulting in the harassment, stalking, and threatening of survivors. By February of 2019, 10 families joined suits and won a series of court rulings requiring Jones to testify under oath. Jones was later ordered to undergo a sworn deposition along with 3 other defendants related to the operation of Infowars. He was also ordered to turn over internal business documents related to Infowars. And in this deposition, Jones acknowledged that the deaths were real, stating he had, quote, almost like a form of psychosis where he, quote, basically thought everything was staged.
Oh my God.
You don't get to do that. You don't get to claim psychosis. Are we kidding?
Well, he did.
Why is this guy not in jail? You caused such turmoil to people.
Well, I mean, I guess, is that a thought crime? I don't know.
I mean, these people were getting death threats. Mm-hmm. He's planted these seeds of doubt within our country, which are fine. Question everything. Great. But Jesus Christ, these are children. Anyways.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely terrible.
Leonard Posner, father of a victim in the Sandy Hook shooting, who has been forced to move several times to avoid harassment and death threats, was accused by Jones of being a crisis actor. He filed a defamation suit against Jones in Texas, and Jones was found to be in contempt of court even before the trial started, failing to produce witnesses and materials relevant to the procedures. Consequently, Jones and Infowars were fined a total of $126,000 in October and December of 2019.
This unhinged lady was calling him and leaving him these messages where she was
God.
calling him all these different things that all were very weird and contradict. It was like any racial epithet she would say. And I'm like, what is causing you to be this angry about this? Why are you so, even if it was faked, what is wrong with you that you are so worried about it that you feel the need to stalk someone and harass them? Mm-hmm. It's so bizarre. But you just cannot go out there and just on a daily basis, perpetuate these lies, get so worked up over it, have so much emotion about it, and then expect that some unhinged listeners aren't going to similarly get worked up about it and then take it upon themselves to do whatever dumb shit that they did. Because of this, Alex Jones's wife was like, I'm out of here. That was the thing that she said was the moment she was like, fuck this. Because she said they seemed to care not one bit about these people at all. All they cared about was how much traction that they were getting because of what they were saying. So he made a video response where he claimed that he now believed, like you said, that the massacre was real. And he aired it on an episode of his show that he called Sandy Hook Vampires Exposed, which I'm not even sure how to take that name.
What? Yeah, why would you name it that?
Oh, and like you said, he claimed he was under psychosis where he thinks at certain times that everything is fake. The whole world is fake. The whole entire world is fake.
Oh, he needs mental health.
Yes.
Mental help.
If you have this psychosis, then you probably shouldn't be out there being a prophet to other lunatics in the midst of psychosis, telling people things that are damaging other people's lives and affecting other people's lives. But he said he had time to think about it, and that after he thought about it, children did die. And actually, the tragedy did occur. So, good. Thanks for your approval, I guess. Yeah, we could say.
Exactly.
So he had also been in a legal battle with Chobani after they surprisingly objected to Infowars posting reports that were titled "Idaho yogurt maker caught importing migrant rapists," among other inflammatory headlines. After which he issued a very rare public apology for that one. In 2015, the absolute idiot Texas Governor Greg Abbott sent the Texas State Guard to, quote, monitor a planned U.S. military exercise that was called Jade Helm after Jones, and who was later identified to be Russian trolls, got a bunch of weirdos whipped into a frenzy that these training exercises were the first taste of a soon-to-be implemented martial law. And that turned out to be just a training exercise and incredibly embarrassing for all of those people who were saying, get ready, everybody. Obama is about to enact martial law all over the country.
I'm so tired of fear mongering. And we finally get to the point y'all wanted. Pizzagate. You're getting it all. And this has already been debunked.
The basic gist was that out of this pizza parlor, Comet Ping Pong, a huge child sex trafficking ring was taking place. And Jones was literally weeping on air about child abuse that was going on with quote-unquote Pizzagate. Like, literally on the air
I
weeping.
do want to say child trafficking, human trafficking, child abuse, this kind of stuff really, truly does fucking go on. It 100% does. Of course it does.
Yeah.
This isn't it.
No.
Anyways.
Again, there's a real issue right in front of his fucking face, but he chooses to fabricate a false one that is a little more glitzy and a little more shiny.
Right.
So in 2016, a volunteer firefighter in North Carolina drove to the pizza parlor, Comet Ping Pong. As he was driving there, he was making a video, essentially like he was saying goodbye to his daughters. He has 2 young daughters. It was essentially like, I gotta be out here. I gotta stop this pedophile ring. I love you girls. So he stormed into the pizza parlor with a gun, only to find out that there was no basement in which this pedophile ring could be run out of. There was no pedophile ring to begin with. He later told the media that the intel on this wasn't so good. Yeah, you just took Alex Jones's crying word for it, and then you decided to go to this pizza parlor and bust into this place where just families were in there eating, people were in there eating, saying, I'm going to break up a pedophile ring, and it didn't exist.
And this is where the danger occurs, is that people take this crazy ass word, this crazy ass person, this conspiracy theorist's word for these types of things, and they get so riled up and they're so impassioned by it, because of course you're impassioned by it. Of course you're impassioned by pedophilia being a thing. We are, right. We get worked up about it. But that's the issue, is this guy legit said goodbye to his daughters because he thought he was going to be killed. And he was so emboldened by the claims that he was like, I'm going to help. I'm going to do my thing. And then there was nothing. It's dangerous.
And embarrassing. And
dangerous. In 2017, in February, James Alefantis, the owner of Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria, sent Jones a letter demanding an apology and retraction of his advocacy for the Pizzagate conspiracy theory. Jones was given 1 month to comply or be subject to a libel suit. In March of 2017, he apologized to Alefantis and retracted his allegations. He retracted them.
But yes, even though I will say that in any of these cases, when he retracts his statements and he apologizes, even the people that work with him are like, it's so disingenuous.
Of course it is.
Everybody says that. Yeah.
He's only retracting them because he's under oath and he knows it's a lie. And he really is being forced to retract it because he made it up.
Yeah.
In March of 2018, Brennan Gilmore, who shared a video he captured of a car hitting anti-racism protesters at the 2017 Unite the Right rally, filed a lawsuit against Jones and 6 others. According to the lawsuit, Jones said that Gilmore was acting as part of, here it is again, a false flag operation conducted by disgruntled government, quote, deep state employees, prompting a coup against Trump. A coup against Trump, imagine. Gilmore alleged he received death threats from Jones' audience.
I'm not surprised because they're crazy. So, as you touched on in the more recent days, Jones has been kind of an anti-COVIDer. I don't know what you say in this situation.
Yeah, what do you say?
An anti-masker? What do you say? He's been using coronavirus as a way to strike fear of economic collapse, world control based on lies, and I'm sure you might have noticed that the president was repeating those lies about coronavirus not being legitimate and all that. He was saying that Democrats, quote unquote Democrats, were celebrating the virus, and the president repeated that very same line. Masks are, you're just a little pussy if you need a mask, and the president repeated pretty much the same thing. So that's always really heartening to see whenever there's a global pandemic that's shut down the world economy, and the president's out there repeating half-wit ideas he'd heard from his conspiracy theorist buddy Cool. And he was also, in even more recent times, Jones, he wasn't caught. He's been regarding George Floyd and his murder by police officers. He was like, he's just a doped up guy that ended up dying. He was all doped up. Like, this was all about control and power is what this is about, of the left. Nobody cares about the race stuff. It was just about control and power of the left.
Of course.
Okay. So, through his far-right conspiracy and disinformation site, Infowars, he has given other degenerates a platform to spread their garbage as well. One notably being Owen Schroyer from St. Louis. And earlier this year, he led a call for the lynching of Barack Obama, if you can fucking believe it.
Oh, of course I do.
Because, I mean, who the fuck in 2020 calls for the lynching of anybody, let alone a black man, let alone the first black president of the United States,
of course.
But, which I'm sure you can actually imagine that he did such a thing, and should, if you've been paying attention, you should believe it. At least this limp dick mama's boy who has no jawline to speak of unless he has a giant beard growing on his face. He said the former president is treasonous, as he cited a conspiracy theory that has been propagated by the far right with no evidence, as they are wont to do. He's talking about the goddamn emails. We're talking about those fucking emails that the far right desperately clings to and has been clinging to for years. Mm-hmm. He said Obama was emailing Clinton on her illegal server under a secret name. He belongs in Guantanamo Bay, LOL. Per Schroyer, he said, I mean, look, I'm not saying that this should happen, but Barack Obama, find the tallest tree and a rope.
Wow, man.
Which is unbelievable. Calling for the lynching of a black man because you're trying to work yourself up into a frothy-mouthed Alex Jonesian fervor is incredibly racist and equally fucking stupid
100%.
As fuck. Because you have, again, these people that are listening to you and hanging on every ignorant word that comes out of your mouth.
His son, Rex Jones, has worked for Infowars, receiving media attention for a video which was critical of gun control and BuzzFeed News. On March 10th of this year, 2020, Jones was arrested and charged with driving while intoxicated in Texas. The Travis County...
I mean, come on! First of all, I never understand this. We have drivers all over.
Yeah, we have Uber.
You have money.
We have Lyft. We have lots of things.
And
a taxi cab.
It's like it's unacceptable for anybody, but let alone if you have money. Like, really, give me a fucking break here. You should not be driving while intoxicated.
The Travis County Jail in Austin confirmed that Jones was charged with a DWI, a Class B demeanor. Authorities said he was booked at 12:37 a.m. and was later released at 4:11 a.m. on a personal recognizance bond.
Oh. Also, a Class B demeanor. What kind of demeanor is that?
You're so cute with your little hands.
Oh.
So, clearly, the amount of disinformation emanating from one human being is truly astounding. Little bit of foreshadowing here. What happens when disinformation is made anonymous with nobody to hold accountable?
Well, let's talk about this almost irrelevant group, QAnon.
Soon to be irrelevant.
Which is a fringy-ass far-right conspiracy theory that the FBI has warned is a potential domestic terrorism threat, that top Democrats run a satanic pedophile cult harvesting children's blood.
Again, I really want to touch on the satanic side of things. We really should do an episode about satanic worship, because what do you mean?
It's just used as like a catch-all for bad.
It's like a whistle. It's like a dog whistle.
Yeah. Followers believe a high-ranking anonymous government official called Q is providing internet users with top-secret information in posts on the internet in which they detail cannibalistic, satanic deep state actors engaging in child trafficking, and that Trump was able to pull that pedo Avenger sword from the stone and was ready to take on the mission of dismantling the whole thing. They believe that Trump was selected by top military brass to run for president and stop the whole satanic thing. Donald Trump, first person that comes to mind for 100%. That job specifically.
Yep, same.
Other messages that Q posts are more cryptic and I'm sure leave much up to the interpretation and imagination of the eager to conspire QAnon followers. It is also literal nonsense. Q made their first post October 2017 on 4chan in a post called Calm Before the Storm being an event in which 100,000 politicians, business people, and celebrities involved in the New World Order would be gathered up and hung in town square, supposedly. They accused various quote-unquote liberals of being involved in the plot from Barack Obama to Hillary Clinton, financier George Soros.
Oh my God. George Soros comes up again and again and again and again.
I would also like to give a big old LOL to Obama and Clinton being called liberals.
Yeah.
Also, by the way. Sure. So QAnon literally does things like tweet pictures of backpacks that say they are suspicious with captions, "Is the left planting bombs around cities now?" And before the election, they were posting pictures of piles of bricks and a bench that may or may not be bolted to anything, wondering, is the left leaving these items of destruction at the ready? I hate to break it to you, but these things are not based in any amount of fact. None at all. You can't just post a picture of a gun and say, "Oh, look at that gun of a leftist goblin sitting in reach of their 3 young children," or a picture of an empty chair and say, "Look at this goddamn liberal demon right here making fun of me right to my face." It's not there. These people use a hashtag WWG1WGA, which stands for Where We Go One, We Go All. And that'll come up in a second whenever we talk about a little bit more. There are were at least 24 U.S. political candidates that actually openly supported QAnon.
I don't know if you went into it, but there I think are like 4 people that were just elected.
Actually elected.
Yeah. That are supporters of QAnon.
And they now are trying to distance themselves from it, saying that they were just sharing the hashtag to get more likes and more views, but it's like, no, you were actually
No.
Definitely.
You were 100% of this thought. Facebook groups dedicated to QAnon have millions of followers, according to documents resulting from an internal review. Twitter and Facebook initially removed hundreds of accounts associated with the conspiracy on its platform, and on October 6th, Facebook banned all QAnon accounts across their platforms, which is too little, too late.
Yeah.
Believers of the hoax have been linked to violence and plots to do damage to infrastructure and harm people. Many people say that it affects the way that people view reality, in which they don't view reality in any capacity. And the sense of unity among its followers is very reminiscent of a cult, which, of course, we agree upon, in our unprofessional opinion. As Wife Gallagher, a disinformation and extremism analyst at the London-based Institute for Strategic Dialogue, told USA Today, quote, "I have just started describing QAnon as a digital cult instead of a conspiracy theory. I actually think that's more accurate. And they're even infiltrating the police department." Nico Roche, an officer in Bellevue, Washington, was put on administrative leave early this summer, and it was found that he violated the department's social media policies for, among other things, posting a picture of himself in riot gear labeled with the QAnon hashtag WWG1WGA, an abbreviation of that slogan, "Where we go one, we go all."
Cool.
Cool.
Up until he retired from the New Haven Police Department in early September of this year, Jason Bandy was perhaps the policing world's most aggressive supporter of QAnon. Bandy, who owns a pre-workout vape business.
I'm sorry,
what does
what?
that even mean? I'm not sure. Pre-workout vape? Is that for weed or is that for just like tobacco vape? Because what good does that do you? Anyway, this guy Jason Bandy has a podcast called For the Love, which covers QAnon among a range of other conspiracies. And so he was a police officer until September. Matthew Kunkel and Mark Manicki, both police officers in LaSalle, Illinois, both made their support for the conspiracy theory known when they posted pictures on Facebook wearing vests that were emblazoned with the Q symbol at a rally to end coronavirus lockdowns and reopen the economy. It's not just something we can choose to just like take the mask off, everything will go away. Yeah, LaSalle's mayor says that what his city's officers do on their own time is their business, but we'd say not so fast when it comes to government agents with the power to use force. QAnon supporters who were at least partially motivated by their belief in the conspiracy theory have plotted to carry out fatal, violent acts or actually done so. Ironically, QAnon supporters have actually kidnapped children in their quest to stop pedophilia somehow. And like we mentioned earlier, the FBI has warned about the potential dangers of QAnon adherents carrying out violence in a document that is designed to be distributed to local law enforcement agencies.
So if you have cops following this conspiracy and also told out to watch for the danger they cause, how exactly does that work?
I don't think it does.
Travis View produces the podcast QAnon Anonymous. That's very redundant, which recently featured an episode on QAnon cops. In an interview with Mother Jones, View's co-host Rake Ruckatansky said,
Jake?
Wow. Oh, you haven't met a rake? Oh, in an interview with Mother Jones, View's co-host Jake Rockatansky said, quote, "The danger is that you've got law enforcement who have a tremendous amount of responsibility who are showing complete disconnect from reality. They carry weapons. What happens if a police officer thinks that they're uncovering a pedophile ring?"
Yep. Yes. We really should not have police living in a separate reality from the one that we live in, the real one. It would be good if they could live here in the real one, because even then they still have a different reality because of the systemic racism being implanted in their brains from the moment they've been trained. Jamie Longazelle, an associate professor at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice, is working on a book on the Blue Lives Matter movement and the police culture surrounding it. He thinks one reason that QAnon may be appealing to cops nowadays is that they face growing criticism from the left, which QAnon labels as evil pedophile enablers, while being embraced heartily by the right. Many cops have been disciplined, quote unquote disciplined, after posting on social media, being interviewed, or some other attention-grabbing situation with Q patches on their clothes, mugs in the background, etc. As Travis View from the podcast QAnon Anonymous said, for every QAnon cop who is dumb enough to just post, "Yes, I love Q, where we go one, we go all," there's got to be many more who are better at hiding their power level, who perhaps understand how this might potentially put their career in jeopardy if they're totally open about this shit, which is totally true and also extremely problematic and
100%. That is very troubling.
Because like he said, you shouldn't be thinking you're on some secret mission that is founded in false information. Exactly. And that is exactly what some of them may be. But like in all things in life, when you build on an unstable foundation, it's easy to lose it all. And so in the wake of a Trump loss in the 2020 presidential election, QAnon is on the struggle bus, and rightfully so. For years, these folks have been under the impression that Trump would win his second term by a landslide and would then spend the rest of his presidency destroying the deep state with his mind control powers, and in the meantime, bring justice to the people by punishing those leaders he's brought down. Just totally the selfless acts that he's known for, you know?
Yeah.
Good old Trumpian behavior.
Yeah.
Somehow, they have gotten themselves to believe that Trump, a man accused many times over of rape and the rape of underage women, a confirmed pal of confirmed sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, is out here making it his mission to bust up pedophile rings. Where's the disconnect? I'm not seeing the connection.
I don't either.
They've been telling each other to, quote unquote, trust the plan for the past 3 years. And now I've seen on the very sparse social media interactions that they have, they're saying it's hard to trust the plan when this is going on right now. I don't really know. It's getting kind of difficult to trust the plan.
Yeah, a little bit. Maybe there's no plan. Weird.
I don't think there was a plan. Since the election, there have been 0 posts on 8kun. Is that how you say it?
I think it was 8chan, and then it
now is 8kun, but I don't know how to say it. Like kun.
I would say it's kun because the whole thing with the 8chan with QAnon and getting into power is that it was initially, I think it was on 4chan, and then it was put on 8chan because 4chan was too
problematic for the goal of the fact that you're trying to bust up pedophiles when there's pedophiles all over the place.
Not problematic, but it was censoring these QAnon posts too much. 4chan. And if you know 4chan is fucking problematic in itself.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah,
but I actually listened to an amazing podcast about essentially the rise of QAnon, where it was like one person who was starting all of these posts. And because it's a message board, it's very easy to just say, well, I'm QAnon, because there's nobody to tie it to. And then also, I think whatever the first QAnon account was, it was hacked into. That password was then leaked out to everybody. And so it's completely easy to create another Q account, and it just becomes Hydra.
Who in the first Q account could just be some idiot pretending to have any sort of information in the first place.
Exactly.
Who knows? But since the election, there have been 0 posts on 8kun. Ron Watkins, the administrator of that site, announced that he was stepping down due to extensive battles over censorship. And his father, Jim Watkins, who owns the 8kun, I feel weird saying it either way, has been singing hymns on his live stream, posting debunked claims about voter fraud, and he's not alone. I see you out there, ladies and gentlemen. If you're gonna post that shit, make sure it's not already debunked. Put some effort into it.
And also, the election, don't message me about it from somebody who doesn't even follow any of my friends. Thank you. That's my PSA.
Okay. Since the election, the QAnon survivors, I guess, have shifted their focus to stop the Steal rallies where Trump and others have made baseless claims of voter fraud. He has launched legal challenges in the battleground states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, Georgia, and Arizona, and been supported by the likes of Myrtle the Turtle, Mitch McConnell, a spineless walking waddle who has said that Trump is 100% within his rights to look into allegations of irregularities without citing any actual evidence, but that is par for the course, I suppose. And again, count all votes,
every single
100%. And you absolutely should be able to call for a recount, but you can't go around crying foul and saying that there is voter fraud when there is actually no evidence. You have actually no claims to show that this is actually happening. Yeah. So there are several lawsuits in Pennsylvania, as with many states. Pennsylvania counted mail-in votes after the in-person votes, which we all know by now Democratic voters tended to vote by mail and Republican voters voted in person. This caused votes being counted initially to be in Trump's favor, but as they began counting mail-in votes, that flipped. La-di-da.
And we knew that was going to happen. The thing is, we had been told for weeks and weeks that don't be scared. That's what's going to happen, because it's true. Republicans do tend, even in 2016, I remember, Republicans tended to vote in person while the Democratic Party tended to vote in advance.
Well, and also,
there's a pandemic.
Okay, this isn't evident. Yes, this isn't evidence of voter fraud. It's just logic, as this year was an unprecedented one for just about anyone that wasn't alive during the flu of 1918. And in the year of an election, we haven't had an election with this much mail-in voting ever, you guys. Come on. It's not a conspiracy. It's just fucking common sense.
Project Veritas, founded by conservative activist James O'Keefe, has been making claims regarding fraudulent election practices. Researchers at Stanford University and University of Washington have been researching Project Veritas for months prior to the election and determined that they were very likely to be part of a coordinated disinformation effort regarding voter fraud right here in good old Minneapolis with Ilhan Omar during the primaries. Additionally, after studying its release and simultaneous other accounts releasing the same video, they noticed that when Donald Trump Jr. retweeted it 7 minutes after its original tweet, the video was missing a From James O'Keefe label that appeared on all other retweets, along with the fact that the metadata suggested it was uploaded new to Twitter and re-encoded by Twitter, indicates that the Trump campaign had access to the video before the general public, raising questions of coordination.
Which is troubling. That in itself is troubling whenever they're saying that they are part of a coordinated disinformation effort regarding voting fraud, and the president's campaign is somehow involved in that, and that doesn't trouble anyone.
Right.
Now, of course, O'Keefe is doing the same thing with the presidential election. He released a video of a postal worker alleging that a supervisor was, quote, tampering with mail-in ballots, which later he recanted.
I think that was
and then
today.
Even later, well, it wasn't, and well, it might still be going on.
Recanting the recant.
Oh yeah, because then he later recanted that he actually recanted the the video. So Project Veritas released a video where he said he didn't actually recant, and claimed in a sworn affidavit that was given to the Trump campaign that he overheard what he believed to be a discussion about backdating of postmarks on ballots that arrived at the postal facility after Election Day. But he can't be sure. Due to coronavirus, mail-in ballots had to be postmarked by Election Day to count, but due to procedures put in place in places like Pennsylvania, for example, those mail-in ballots that arrived to the election offices after Election Day, no matter if they were postmarked by Election Day or not, have not even been added to the tally of votes for the candidate, either Republican or Democrat. It doesn't really matter. This whole thing doesn't really matter. Those votes haven't even been included in any of the numbers. Lindsey Graham, the human sea slug, has said the following: I will not allow credible allegations of voting irregularities or misconduct to be swept under the rug. He later acknowledged in a television interview on this past Sunday that the claims that he circulated were unverified because he doesn't want Trump to be mean to him for the next 2 months. That's pretty much the reason. The Inspector General's office told Congress that Hopkins, the man that worked at the post office, recanted his allegations but didn't explain why he signed a false affidavit to the president's campaign. O'Keefe has a lengthy history of releasing carefully edited, often manipulated footage purporting to show illegal conduct by them rascally liberals, so you got to just take it for what it's worth.
Ironically, on October 29th of this year, Mother Jones released an article that showed that Jim Watkins, owner of 8chan, and its successor 8kun, where QAnon is run from, controls a number of companies that host a ton of domains where names suggest that they are tied to child pornography. The domains names include terms such as preteen, schoolgirl, and child, alongside graphic terms for genitalia and words like rape and love. Although they did not visit the site due to child pornography laws, it does seem fairly explicit that these could be tied to the very thing QAnon purports to be out to abolish. At the very least, it shows that Watkins profits off domains with names explicitly related to pedophilia. But an analysis of metadata collected from one by archive.org shows dozens of file names and links containing highly suggestive terms, including XXX preteen, children, and sexual references to girls aged 12 to 15.
Some domains date back to the 90s and aren't active, while many others are currently active domains registered under Watkins' company, NT Technology. One domain created in 1998 and hosted by NT Technology, which bills itself as a, quote, powerhouse in the internet world, supporting some of the largest sites on Earth, lists Watkins as its administrator and names a separate holding company he owns, Is It Wet Yet Incorporated, as the administration organization. According to historical domain and web archive records, the domain has, over the years, been associated with dozens of subdomains, more specific and focused offshoots of the main domain, whose names combine terms like preteen, kidnap, and rape. They include a comprehensive system of subdomains referencing age ranges as young as 10 years old. When asked about the specific domain, Watkins said, I have really no idea about it.
Sure.
But considering that your whole goal in your entire organization, QAnon, the whole conspiracy, is that you're out here to bust pedophilia, it seems really weird to have any kind of link to some sort of pedophilia, that you're not out here trying to destroy yourself. But overall, with the election being what it was, QAnon has lost some steam and hopefully are just on their way to Never Never Land. Their online presence has all but disappeared, and among the ranks, it seems they are having difficulty keeping the faith in their quote-unquote plan. Whether or not the conspiracy theory cult will survive the next few years without their fearless leader officially at the helm, we will have to see. But we can at least hope that next time we will all try to think more critically about the information that people with an agenda are providing us, and that if they're a wild conspiracy theorist with little actual basis in reality, they won't jump into the president's pocket and influence their decisions and rhetoric. Back to that question that Alex Jones asked the Texas Monthly reporter 10 years ago. Do you think what I'm doing is bad? Do you think I'm a bad person? Yes, Alex and QAnon, we really, truly do. And that's all we're going to say about it.
Thank you for listening. Sorry to all of the listeners we lost from this episode.
I highly doubt it. I doubt it. A few, maybe.
In order to offset the absolute outpouring of 1-star reviews that we're about to get on iTunes, please head on over to itunes.com and leave us a 5-star written review. Just to help the show out. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
If you would like to also join our Patreon and have our Creeping Up episodes and little things that we want to do for you, head on over to patreon.com/creepitrealpod. What else?
Well, also, I'm like, I feel compelled to say, I do think that there are problematic issues with Biden, Kamala Harris. Believe me, I do. But we needed some semblance of sanity, and I feel like it wasn't the lesser of two evils. It was, I am purposefully against what has been going on. That's it.
Sure.
I am against what's going on, and it needs to change. And it would be great if one day we didn't get fucked out of perhaps real change.
Yeah.
Perhaps with somebody that has actually groundbreaking ideas.
It's not the you're right. It's not the groundbreaking change that we do as a country need
and deserve.
But it is the first. It is the and deserve. Yes, but it is the first step to getting there. And I don't know that we'll see it in our lifetime. I mean, I really hope that we do. But it really is. It's just a step back to normalcy.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, clearly when you have a proven lying conspiracy theorist influencing the most quote unquote powerful man in America, something is wrong there, and we need to reel the shit back in. But whatever. Okay. So anyway, thank you for listening, everybody. I'm glad I am getting better, and maybe next recording I won't have to be recording from a different place. We'll see.
Oh my gosh, I hope so. It's so much better when you're here.
But anyway,
I miss you. Also, I miss you.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, cool. You miss me too? That's
I miss
nice.
you too. Okay. Have a great life.
Have a great everything.
Creep it real.